Hey everyone, Felipe here. Welcome to another Tarot Saviors GNN review video. This week we have some really exciting news that actually come as a surprise to me, and we have a new Black Gold character coming out. Personally, I do think it's a little bit soon to be releasing a new Black Gold card, especially since we have a double feature not too long ago with both Una and Nula. However, part of me was suspecting it because with all the resurgence of Egyptian cards, it did seem that Madhead was planning on revealing a new Egyptian themed Black Gold card, and so both surprised that it came out and also thinking that my suspicions were right. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started with this GNN news and check out the skills of this new Black Gold card, since these are typically the more powerful cards in the game and definitely something to look forward to. We also have a new Ultimate Trial as well as a new character in the Pyramid activation, but the bulk of this news and the biggest headline of this week is going to be the new Black Gold card, the Ever Blazing Soul Atum. As always, this will come with its own drawing machine, will be guaranteed for every 40 draws, and we also have the purchase bonus of buy 30 get 30 free. Also, whenever you do 10 draws, you will get 3 golden moth drakes, and that is pretty standard for Black Gold cards, so definitely just the usual uh, drill. And if you've been playing the game, you already know the drill when it comes to Black Gold cards. But yeah, so summoners will be rewarded with the exclusive Dragonware Scarab armor upon getting the first ever Blazing Soul attempt, and then you can craft more Dragon Craft by using duplicate copies of this new Black Gold card, which personally I always think that it's a bit of a shame to use up a Black Gold card for Dragonware because they're so rare to begin with that unless you get really lucky, I would personally keep the card in case you want to run two in the same team or three in the same team. But yeah, now let's get started with her leader skill, which is what I'm interested about actually. Team attack times 10, HP and recovery times 2.4. Direct damage, active skill, dealt to enemies times 5 additionally. When the team has 3 or more races, team attack increases by 1.5 times additionally, as well as recovery. By dissolving fire runes, team attack times 2.2, additionally, damage received minus 40%, and combo count plus 6. By dissolving light runes, team attack times 2.2 additionally, and the character will launch an extra fire attack. This is actually a very thematic and fitting leader skill, really, because the ever blazing soul meaning sun, definitely makes you think of light and fire as well. So having both those attributes built into the leader skill is very thematic. She is going to be a light Machina card, which I'm not exactly sure why uh, she's a Machina card. I mean, her design itself kinda resembles a Machina with the wings and all, but the thing with Egyptian cards is that I feel like they're typically gods. Like the entire Egyptian god archetype is based on gods. Granted, they're all like beasts, dragons, and gods. And Anubis is also a god, which makes me wonder why they made this card a Machina, right? The only other Machina card that we have is the Pyramid in terms of the Egyptian cards, which makes me a little bit conflicted about this card from the get go. The race itself is already kind of weird given how she is supposed to be part of the Egyptian archetype and everything else is beast, dragon, god, right? And machinas, for machina dynamics, you want to have two or more machinas, and the more machinas, the better. So a little bit conflicted on the race, but the leader skill itself looks pretty decent. Team attack baseline times 10 is very nice. and also have a 1.5 times multiplier just by having 3 or more races in the team. And honestly, this is a very easy condition to hit. You just need to bring whatever cards you want, Anubis, Ra, things like that, right? Then you have an additional 2.2 by dissolving fire runes, not first batch, which is also a very easy condition to hit. And by dissolving light runes, you get an additional 2.2. So overall, you are getting a pretty decent damage multiplier here of about 60 um, team attack baseline for her leader skill without counting team skills and without counting your ally as well. Not only that, you do have a lot of sustain because your HP and recovery increases by 2.4 times, which is a very decent multiplier, which will give you a pretty hefty amount of HP as well. Not only that, you also have a 1.5 times recovery boost and a damage reduction of 40% if you dissolve fire runes, which means that your survivability is going to be pretty decent. Combo count plus 6 when you dissolve fire runes, also very nice because doing high combos is always the goal because you increase your damage and also counter a lot of enemy skills. So just by having a plus 6 combo increase on your leader skill makes this card pretty decent as well. The only thing missing from this leader skill in my opinion is going to be more utility and shield breaking potential, right? But yeah, but that may come on her team skill, so let's take a look at her team skill now. For the condition we have, the leader is Ever Blazing Soul Atum. So this is just going to be a single leader, which means that you are free to run whatever ally that you want. And this will include both the Egyptian gods or any of Machina cards such as Lilith would make a really good ally for this card, right? But for her team skill we have the following. Extend runestone movement time regardlessly by 5 seconds. All runestones possess the effect of fire and light runes. Fire and light runes also possess the effect of each other. At the beginning and at the end of each round, modify all runestones to become runestones of the corresponding race in each column. Machina, Beast, Dragon, and God runestones also possess the effect of each other. For every 10 runestones dissolved, a non-attributive damage of 10 million will be dealt to all enemies before your attack, to the max of 90 million for 90 runestones dissolved. Damage will be dealt regardless of green and red vortex. What? Nice. Damage received from burning and scorching areas will be converted to HP recovery. The team will acquire a protective shield of 50,000, and when the protective shield has more than 1 point, it can withstand a damage that is greater than the current shield point once. Shield point will then become 0 after withstanding this damage. When the protective shield has 0 points, refresh the protective shield at the end of the round at most 5 times. After dissolving runestones, the first batch of runestones to be dropped will be enchanted fire runes. The second batch of runestones to be dropped will be enchanted light runes. Damage will be dealt regardless of fixed combo and equal combo shield. If there is a Atum in the team, by dissolving 30 or more fire or light runes in total, when Atum attacks, ignite the enemies for 3 rounds and deal a fire damage of 1500 times the attack basic value of the first attempt from the left in each for each round. Damage of attempt will be dealt to ignited enemies 3 times 3 additionally. Basically, if the enemy is ignited, attempt deals 3 times damage. After entering the stage, Atem and Rocketing Shine Pyramid will have their skill cooldown decreased by 6 and fuel increased by 50%. And Machina Dynamics. That was a lot of text and a lot of team skills, and this is definitely a team skill worthy of a Black Gold card. So, let's unpack this little by little. Extend Runestone movement time by 5 seconds. Pretty standard nowadays. More runestone movement time, better combos, easier time clearing stages. So that's nice. Runestone possession effect means that you don't struggle with runestone drought and everything is attacking rune. Also very standard nowadays and definitely good to have. Fire and Light runestones, runestone possession effect, same thing. This one right here is going to be a very nice thing to have. At the beginning of each round, modified all runestones to become runestones of the corresponding members race in each column. This is applicable to the all to other black gold cards such as Black Hole Daji and other leaders such as Tengen Toppa, as well as I think Caesar. Uh, yeah, but the benefit of this is not only are you generating race runes to increase your damage, but whenever you have a full race rune board, certain board debuffs do not trigger. For example, weather runes, locked runes, petrified runes, condensed runes. I think cracked positions do not appear either. I could be wrong. But basically, weathered, cracked, locked, condensed, petrified, frozen will not appear on the board, which means that you are basically immune to all these board debuffs because of this skill right here. Machina Beast and Dragon and God runes possess the effect of each other, which means that your damage increase for one race will also benefit the other races. And this right here is built with the purpose of synergizing with the other Egyptian gods, right? Because Ra is a beast, Seth and Shu are dragons, Ra is a beast, and Osiris is a god, right? So Tevnut is a beast, sorry. So this is, and Anubis, of course, is a god as well. So this is basically built to synergize with the other Egyptian cards, which in reality you might want to run them, but you might also just want to run other beast, dragon, god members instead, because we will get into team building later. By reading these things, I already have a slight idea on how to build her, and let's just say that the Egyptian gods might not be the best members for an attempt team. But yeah, for every 10 runestones dissolved, deal a non-attributive damage of 10 million to all enemies. That is going to be really nice, especially when you pair her up with her leader's skill, where all direct damage is increased by 5 times. And here I will backtrack a little bit and say that in my previous GNN review, I was a little bit wrong about Egyptian cards. Their direct damage is insane when they're run as leaders. And I was wrong about that. Snipers in general are still kind of bad, but when you have an Egyptian god, Supreme Reckoning, as a leader, your active skill is dealing 36 billion damage, which is a very respectable amount of damage in the current meta even now. However, in this case, this is not going to be that great. And the reason why it's not that great is because the only benefit or the only skill affecting direct damage in an attempt team is going to be this second effect where direct damage is increased by 5 times. And if you're running a dual attempt, dual leader and ally, this is going to be 25. And this is basically going to be 25 million or to the max of, that's what, 100 something? Wait, 25. Yeah, about like 250, like 1 billion, give or take, if you manage to reach 90 million. Yeah, 10 million times 25, that is going to be 250 million, and then multiply that by 9. So 2500, 100, so like 2 billion. And that is going to be significantly lower than the Egyptian gods. And the reason why that is because the Egyptian gods have another skill that allows you to deal 100 times more active skill damage. They do have part of their leader skill is that damage dealt by their attribute is increased by 10 times, and that includes active skill damage, which is the part that I missed, and which is why sniper damage becomes really powerful in an Egyptian Supreme Reckoning team. However, because Atem does not have that, your sniper damage is not going to be that big. However, if you are dealing 250 million every round without actually having to activate active skills, that is also going to build up and become a really good chunk of damage. And that is 250 million is just the minimum. And honestly, you might reach pretty decent damage every round. It's not going to be like the new Supreme Reckoning Egyptians that can one shot a lot of things nowadays, but it is still going to be a nice piece of support to this team. So honestly, not a bad thing to have, especially as a passive, because you don't really have to rely on active skills for this sniper damage. And if we take a look at the later part of the team skill, we do have guaranteed sky drop, which will help towards this 90 runestone requirement to reach your maximum damage. And so that is going to be really nice to have and give you a decent chunk of damage, but it is definitely not going to be as broken as a sniper from an Egyptian Supreme Reckoning leader. I will say here that Egyptian God Supreme Reckoning are still not that great of a leaders in the grand scheme of things. However, I am slightly corrected in saying that from the last time I made a review, in saying that they're below average. I do think they're still my opinion on them has increased a little bit. So they're still now they're above average, but I do still think that they are not a tier 0 leader because of the restrictions on their leader skills and team skills. But going back to Atem, tangent over, her team skill is very nice in terms of utility as well. Green Red Vortex, Ignore, is definitely a new thing that we've never had before, and that is going to be really useful for you just to have Ignore traffic light runes. It's something that we've always wanted, and we finally have it, and it's going to be very nice to ignore it. Burning and scorching areas, also nice utility to have. Protective shield, also very nice to have, especially when it comes with a shield tumbler, where even if you have only 1 point, you are still able to survive that attack and your shield will not break. Well, your shield will break, but you will not receive any damage. And not only that, when your shield becomes 0, it will refresh itself without having to activate any active skills. Granted, this only happens 5 times, but that is an amazing passive skill to have. To have your shield refresh whenever it depletes without having to activate anything is going to be quite amazing and very nice in terms of survivability. And even then, you already have decent HP and very good recovery, so your survivability is going to be pretty good as well. Also, after dissolving rune cells, first batch is going to be fire runes, second batch is going to be light runes, and damage will be dealt regardless of fixed and equal combo shield. This is very nice utility as well. The fact that you can ignore fixed combo and equal combo shields without relying on active skills makes this very appealing leader because you don't have to think about it as much. And these first batch and second batch is just going to provide you with so much attack. The only downside is that it is fixed to be fire runes and light runes. So if you encounter an enemy that blocks fire runes or light runes, you're going to end up with a full board of unusable runes. But overall, I still think that that is going to be a very nice chunk of damage. And honestly, if you pair it up with the direct damage here, it's going to be a very nice playstyle in my opinion. We've dealt a lot with first batch, but second batch is new to me, and that is going to be fun in my opinion. I think she is going to be a fun leader and have a fun playstyle. Okay, and we're still not done. For this part right here, I think that is also a very nice passive. Being able to ignite enemies passively without the use of an active skill is going to be very very good. And this will take about 2 or 3 rounds because with the guaranteed sky drop, I mean, if you are able to do a full board dissolve, then you are going to be able to trigger this uh, round one. But full board dissolve is very situational and it might not happen. So this is going to take at least 2 rounds or 3 rounds. And but when you do so, you do ignite enemies. You deal more sniper damage, and you also deal more damage with Atum to ignited enemies. And that is very nice to have. Doesn't really work with uncontrollable enemies, but who cares when you can just ignite a lot of things. And especially if we encounter an enemy that requires to be ignited, this is a definitely good leader to have for that because you just destroy things. And next, last thing is a stat boost or a skill cooldown reduction if you're running a 10 with Pyramid. However, I will say that Pyramid is one of the more conflicting cards that I've read so far because it doesn't really do a lot. So in my opinion, I would forego Pyramid and add members that actually help your team because Pyramid is, in for lack of better words, not a great card. And in the current meta where you need more team slots for different utilities or buffers, having a card that doesn't do much doesn't really benefit your team as much as other cards. So in my opinion, I would choose another card and not run Pyramid. But uh, it is a nice way to satisfy your two Machina um, condition for Machina dynamics. But overall, I do think you might as well run something else like Lilith or other Machina cards that you might have, Ali, or But yeah, so that is a lot of text and a lot to unpack. In terms of a leader, I think Atem is going to be pretty fun and pretty powerful in terms of multipliers. Her multipliers may not be that high in the grand scheme of things. Um, Actually, no, her multipliers are crazy. They're pretty good, especially when you're running her in dual leader and ally. Yeah, when you're talking, some of the better leaders have times 36, times 50. This one is going to have like about times 90. Actually, 44, yeah, like 50, 70, times 70, 80-ish, right? Um, Baseline times 10 is amazing. You also get a 1.5 and an additional 2.2 and 2.2 additionally, which now that you know that her team skill gives you guaranteed fire and guaranteed light drops, this condition right here for her leader skill is trivial. It will trigger every round no matter what. So her leader skill itself with her team skill is going to be absolutely insane and has very good synergy within each other, which is a very good sign of a well-designed card. Yeah, team attack times 10 with a condition that is satisfied from the get-go, and two conditions right here that basically trigger every round means that your overall damage output is going to be very high. You also have combo count increase, damage reduction, and extra attacks as well. And not only that, you have direct damage buff from her leader skill, and you can deal a lot of extra damage from this passive, and that is going to help you kill enemies faster. So yeah, what do I think about this card? I think as a leader, she is going to be very powerful. She has no race restriction, she doesn't have any attribute restriction, which means that it does have access to every single card in the game. Granted, you will benefit the most out of Machina, Dragon, Beast, and Gods because of the whole race rune sharing thing, but it does not stop you from running other races or other attributes because she does not have any of those restrictions on her leader skill or her team skill. So yeah, very flexible leader, Looks like a fun playstyle. In terms of Machina, I guess it's a good thing that it's a Machina card uh, with Machina dynamics because that's going to launch more attacks, increase her attack, and make it better. Uh, but honestly, yeah, you can run whatever you want in her team. So you can run as much utility as you want, even though her team skill already has a lot of utility as well. But like I said, I don't think the other Egyptian cards are going to be that useful in her team because their first active skill is a sniper damage, and that sniper damage is kind of gonna hit like a wet noodle without the times 100 extra damage from their Supreme Reckoning skill. And that damage, the other reason why it's so good in Egyptian leaders is because it also ignores a bunch of shields that in this case will not be ignored. So, and then the second one is an attribute alteration skill, which in that case I do think Ra or Seth might be good because you are changing the attribute of the enemy to your weakness attribute, which is both light and fire. And so those two might be good, but the other three are not going to be that great in an attempt team. Also, Anubis might be good, but also not as much synergy because Anubis doesn't have a team skill with them. I do think Anubis should have had a team skill with Atem, but it's a shame that it doesn't. So, in terms of team building, maybe bring Seth or Ra for attribute change. You can also bring other utility, such as Pompeii, uh, for Puzzle Shield, also for fixed boards, which means more Skydrop, first and second batch. Lilith, because she is an amazing Machina card. Um, and maybe like Ali or other teams. But like I said before, this card has access to the entire game, or to every single card in the game, which is going to make it really good, in my opinion. Uh, should you pull for her? That is the question. Let's take a look at her active skill first before we cover that. Her active skill is going to be a CD6 skill. Remove all runestones to generate enchanted machina, fire, and light runes of fixed numbers and fixed positions. Change the state of the character from fatigue and hypnotized into hyper state. Machinas will enter a hyper state for 2 rounds, and for 1 round, machina damage will be dealt regardless of duo, trio, quartet, and quintet elemental shield, as well as runestone combo nullifying shield. If the leader is Atem, the protective shield will be lowered to 1 and add 50% of the deducted points to the attack basic value of Atem. This is actually a very, very good active skill. You are removing all the runestones, which is always good because you can remove all the board debuffs that you can think of, and generating a fixed board, which will help with uh, high combos, with fixed combos. I will help with all combo dissolve, things like that. Especially for an attempt team, it will give you a full board dissolve, which means that you get the maximum of 90 runes dissolved because you get 30 Skydrop and then 30 more Skydrop plus the 30 from the original batch, right? Uh, Ignoring fatigue and hypnotized state, that is going to be super good. This is a way of turning hypnotized into an advantage, and that is going to be very powerful in my opinion. Entering hyper state also really good because it also prevents fatigue states from kicking in, because once you have a effect on your character icons, they will not be affected by another one of those effects, including fatigue and hypnotized. So technically you could use this skill before getting fatigued or after getting fatigued, because uh, actually no. If you wanna, you can change your own character from fatigue and hypnotize to hyper state, which is still pretty good, but you can also prevent your entire team of machinas from being hypnotized or fatigued by making them hyperstate for 2 rounds. So in my opinion, I think this is going to be a very good Machina support card because of the whole Machina damage, ignoring different shields. Also, Machinas enter hyperstate. Um, but yeah, in terms of an attempt team, that Machina, uh, those Machina effects will only benefit her mostly, unless you are running multiple Machinas. But depending on the team composition, that might not be the case. But being able to ignore duo, trio, quartet, quintet, as well as runestone combo nullifying is going to be really powerful as well. So in my opinion, definitely a good Machina support card. If you are running Atem as a leader, she also is going to get an amazing attack buff because this is going to be at most a 25,000 attack buff um, to her. And right now, the highest attack basic value that a card has is, I think, TTND or uh, power release, power release Inkzen. That is at most, I think, 4,000. And now imagine getting a 25,000 attack buff. That is going to be basically a very decent damage increase to your personal damage. And not only that, here, your fire damage scales off your attack basic value here. So that is going to be a decent chunk of sniper damage as well. But yeah, in terms of her active skill, I do think it is a pretty good active skill with good utility, good support for Machina, so definitely worth considering if you're planning on running a lot of Machina teams in the future, because she is a good Machina support. Has a lot of utility, a lot of shield ignores, and honestly, if you do get her and you're running her as a leader, her active skill is also really good for her as well. So yeah, do we pull for her? That's the big question. And my answer to that is um, I am not convinced either way, right? So I'm not leaning super strongly on either direction. I don't think it's a must pull because it doesn't seem like it's going to be super broken like Una and Nulla, but it's not useless like Nesoi. Sorry, Nesoi fans. I apologize if I offended anyone with that comment, but Nesoi was one of the weaker black gold cards when she came out, and I don't think I ever used her to clear any stages whatsoever. Atem, on the other hand, I can already see that her multipliers are really good, her playstyle is fun, and it's very flexible as well. So she is going to be a leader that is going to be pretty fun and pretty flexible and help you clear a lot of endgame content, including nightmare stages and calamitous stages. But I don't think she is a must pull. Like, absolutely spend money to get her? Not really, especially because we had Una Anula. If you pulled for Una Anula, I do think that you could afford saving diamonds because her playstyle is very similar to Nula with the whole guaranteed skydrop. But Nula gives you more utility and more attacks, more extra attacks. Um, if you pair her up with Una, you also deal a lot of damage. You also have flexibility of running her with the entire roster in the game. So if you have Nula and Una, I would suggest or recommend to save some diamonds because Atem seems fun, but it doesn't seem like it's a must pull. But on the other hand, if you are looking for a powerful Machina leader, this is definitely a good option for you to have, especially since if you don't have Lilith, you can pair her up with Lilith as an ally. And like I said before, she is going to help you clear a lot of stages because she has the tools for it. But keep in mind that Madhead did announce that there's going to be some upcoming collaborations, and so I might also recommend for you to wait until those news come out, since it's going to take about like a week or two for, let's see, 3rd of April to 16th of April. So that's 2 weeks. Yeah, that's 2 weeks. Um, for wait, 13 April to 16 April. Yeah, 3rd April to 16th of April Sunday. That's 2 weeks. I think Madhead will probably announce a new seal or a new collaboration within these 2 weeks. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I would say wait for further news before pulling for her, because I do feel like uh, if you already have Ali, if you already have Una, if you already have Nula, you could save diamonds. But if you don't have any of those, she is going to be a good option for you to get a decent leader in your team. However, keep in mind that her banner or her drawing machine does come with all the Meta original cards, so it might be harder to form a team that synergizes as opposed to a collaboration seal where every card is of the same archetype, right? So trade-offs here and there. Overall, my full conclusion is that if you pull her, I don't think you're going to regret her because she does have really good utility, a looks like a fun playstyle, and also good damage output. But if you don't pull for her, I also don't think you will regret it because um, because she doesn't seem like she's super broken. And I could be wrong. And I will make a follow-up video if I'm wrong after I test her when she comes out. But yeah, yeah. Final conclusion, I don't think you're going to regret it if you pull for her, but I also don't think that you will regret it if you save for diamonds, especially if you're free to play because there are some collaborations coming out as well. Okay, my Kina exclusive Dragonware. I spent so much time talking about that black gold card, so let's just blaze through the rest of the GNN. Makina Dragonware. Honestly, this Dragonware is not that great. Uh, 1.8 attack boost, which is actually pretty decent. 1.6 and 1.1 HP value if your character is a Makina. These two are tailor-made for a attempt team, and 1.8 and 1.6 is actually a significant increase of damage, and these two conditions are very trivial in an attempt team. So definitely equip your attempt with this Dragonware when you get her, because that is going to be to increase your personal damage by a lot. Otherwise, I don't think this Dragonware is worth getting duplicates of, because these conditions are, they're actually not that bad, but I still don't think you need duplicates of this. Okay, we are now taking a look at the new ultimate stage, a 1,000-year-old mummy, which will feature Undecayed Physician Imhotep. This is going to be a fire god with a CD6 skill and the following effect. Fire member and god members will deal damage regardless of puzzle shield. Burst of movement time increases by 10 seconds, sticky is nullified, and every time a sticky position is touched, you recover 10% HP until team HP is full. When the character attacks, you will venom the enemy with a non-attribute of damage, yada yada yada. Basically, you will venom the enemy. Honestly, venom is not that great of a status effect. It's just that it is required to deal damage to certain enemies that have a venom shield. But honestly, this active skill is absolutely, in my opinion, is very good. It has a lot of consolidation of utility into one single active skill. And the one thing I've been saying in all my GNNs is that GNN reviews is that team slots are very valuable nowadays. So having a card that can do multiple things is going to be very good. In this case, this card both ignores Puzzle Shield but also allows you to Venom enemies. So that is two pieces of utility that is going to be really good. It also ignores Sticky, but a lot of meta leaders already ignore Sticky by themselves. So, you know, but yeah, in my opinion, a really good card, really good active skill to have, especially for the role consolidation that it offers by allowing you to break Puzzle Shield and also inflict a status on an enemy, specifically Venom. Okay, we also have a new item on the Pyramid Shop, which is going to be the Flourishing Crystal Dragon and the Ever Blazing Soul Medal, which, medals. But yeah, so by collecting Pyramid Energy, you can use it to redeem this new character, which is the Flourishing Crystal Dragon. This is going to be a Water Dragon, of course. CD7 skill and has the following effect. Modify all runes to become Dragon runes. For one round, according to the number of Dragon runes dissolved, your combo count increases. If the team has only dragons, for 2 rounds the damage received in the rounds will not lead to your defeat. Honestly, this is a pretty average skill. It's honestly a very good way to increase your combo count if you're running uh, this card in your team. However, if that's all it does, then you might as well run another card that increases your combo count unconditionally or has more utility built into it, things like that. If your team is only dragons, the damage received will not lead to your defeat for 2 rounds, which is a very nice piece of utility, but it does lock you to having a mono dragon team, which nowadays a lot of teams are more leaning towards the mixed race teams. I will say though, there is a potential of reaching plus 30 combo with this skill if you dissolve all Dragon Runestones in the first batch. And that is going to be one of the highest combo count increases in the game, which is always good to have, specifically if you're dealing with very high combo count shields, which luckily we haven't encountered yet, but it's only a matter of time until Mathead decides to go insane and gives us impossible enemy skills, right? But yeah, overall, I do think it's a pretty average card, but definitely worth having in your inventory just in case. So yeah, go ahead and collect your pyramid energy in order to collect this card. Last but not least, right? Last but not least, we have a new challenge mission with the Guardian of the Pharaoh's Tome, which will feature the Light Beast card, the Great Sphinx Fathia. This is going to have a CD7 skill and have the following effect. Explode weather runestones and petrify runes. Petrify enemies for 2 rounds. If the enemy's attack is greater than the total team HP, petrify that enemy for 2 rounds and inactivate it. While the effect is in play, runestone movement will not be stopped when a tornado is touched. Honestly, this is a pretty decent active skill as well, because it inflicts petrifying on the enemies on a CD7 cooldown, and that is pretty quick for this type of active skill. And in my opinion, the reason why this one is pretty appealing to me is that not only does it petrify enemies for 2 rounds, it guarantees your survival if you're able to petrify them. If the enemy's attack is less than your HP, you're not going to die, so that is fine. However, if the enemy's attack is higher than your total HP, meaning that the enemy will kill you, you inactivate them as well as petrify them, and that is going to give you 2 rounds to kill it before it kills you. And that is very valuable in my opinion. So in my opinion, this is going to be a very good beast card option to petrify enemies. You also ignore tornado, but tornadoes are very situational and they don't really appear that often. So uh, good thing to have, but not going to be the main issue with this active skill. And the main use is going to be to petrify your enemies and explode petrify runes and weather runestones as well. So definitely a good card to have in your inventory, and I do recommend for you to get at least one copy. And we also have a Dragonary Craft game mode. Oh, a new one? That is going to be exciting. Uh, oh wait, no, this is just going to be um, you use the current Dragonary Craft modes to play a game. Because I thought by reading these, I thought they were going to introduce a new type of Dragonary Craft, but I think this is just going to be a mini game of sorts. But yeah, typically these mini games come with rewards, so make sure you don't miss out and claim those rewards. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this GNN. So let's just recap what we have today. And today we have a new black gold card, which is going to be the main headline for this GNN, and I definitely spent a lot of time talking about her. So hopefully you have a good idea on her skills and my opinion about this card. If, as a recap, she is a very good leader, good damage output, with very easy conditions to achieve thanks to her team skill, which means that she will always be at her maximum damage output unless you're facing with enemies with fire block or light block. Her team skill also synergizes very well with her leader skill by giving her sniper damage that increases in damage thanks to her active skill, runes of possession effect, runes of movement time, as well as a lot of utility that you can deal with without having to rely on active skills such as green red vortex ignore, burning and scorching ignore, equal combo shield, and fixed combo shield ignore. Not only that, you also have a protective shield which will protect you from enemy damage, but you also have a decent HP multiplier and a decent recovery multiplier. So overall, she is going to be a fun leader with good damage output, good survivability, and also a fun playstyle. In terms of her active skill, it does synergize very well with her kit as well, but in terms of members for other teams, she does only fit on a Mono Machina team as a support. Granted, she will be a very good Machina support card by allowing you to ignore duo, trio, quartet, quintet, and runestone combo nullifying shields, as well as preventing hypnotized and fatigue states by preemptively giving you a hyper state. So, all in all, I do think she is going to be a very good Machina support card, but in terms of general support, I think she is not that great, and as a member will only fit on a Mono Machina team or on an Atum leader team. In terms of the Dragonware, it's a very good Dragonware for Atum, but other than that, even though these conditions are very easy to hit, I do think it will mostly shine brightest on an Atum team, but it's still usable, but I don't think it is worth getting a duplicate of this Dragonware. So if you get a duplicate attempt, actually just put them together in the same team and don't use it for Dragonware because it is better to have two attempts in your team than having an extra Dragonware. The new Ultimate stage is coming up with the Egyptian theme as well, with the Fire God Imhotep. My opinion, a very decent skill to have, good consolidation of rolls, with a very short cooldown, so definitely worth having this card at dual max. In terms of the pyramid shop, we have two new items, one which is going to be a Thames medal, as well as a new character, Flourishing Crystal Dragon. My opinion has a very good combo increases skill, but in terms of utility, that is all it provides you with, as well as a tumbler with a mono dragon team. But at CD7, I think it is a pretty slow active skill that doesn't really do much. So even though it's average, I recommend having one copy in your inventory just in case. But it is very replaceable in my opinion, and you can bring other cards in your team um, for more benefits. Last but not least, we have a new challenge mission, which will feature the Grand Sphinx Fatia. She is going to be a CD7 Light Beast card and has very good utility in terms of crowd control skills. You explode weather runes and petrify runes, and also petrify enemies for 2 rounds. Not only that, you will also be able to survive these enemies for 2 rounds because if the enemy is about to kill you, the petrification will also inactivate them. You also ignore tornado, but that is minimal because tornadoes are very situational. Overall, this is a very good card for beast teams because of the petrification effect that she has. And we also have a new Dragonary game mode, which I'm not sure what it's going to be about, so I'm actually pretty excited to see what we have in store. That is going to be all for this week's GNN news. Please let me know in the comments if I said anything wrong or if I missed out on anything. This is a brand new black gold card, so I may be wrong in certain parts, and if I'm wrong, I will post a follow-up video. But yeah, as always, stay tuned on my YouTube channel. I do post regular Tower Saviors content there, and such as guides, clear videos, and a new series to help improve your gameplay. But yeah, but for now, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone!
生活充满乐趣，开局迎来最初胜利。